Good afternoon. My name is Pat McCracken. I'm a volunteer here at the Rocky Mountain Raptor program in Fort Collins. And joining me today is an eastern screech owl. Now, the nice thing about having an eastern screech owl in my hand for a talk like this is I don't have to really be interesting at all because everybody wants to see this cute little bird. Is he, he's the cutest little thing in the world, isn't he? So this is a eastern screech owl. We have 13 owls in Colorado, and about half of them are medium to large owls, much bigger than this guy, like the great horned owl, the barn owl, the long eared owl, short eared owl. And then about half of them are 8 inches or less. And this guy, believe it or not, is the biggest of the little owls. So that's a mark of distinction. And he came to us in July of 2020 as a rehabilitation bird. He was found in Fort Collins, and he was found on the roadside, and he'd obviously been hit by a car. And so he had broken his jaw, and his when he came in, it was his jaw is out of a line, so his jaw doesn't have the right bite to it, doesn't have the right orientation to grow correctly. So he went through our rehabilitation program, and he's just fine except for his jaw growth. So his beak doesn't grow correctly, and so it needs to have a lot of care taken of it in order for him to be able to for him to be able to eat and to tear and to tear food. And so he's going to be with us. He's not releasable. He's going to be with us for the rest of his life. Now, the reason I bring this up today is because one of the questions that we're often asked when we go to schools, and it's a very simple question, a seemingly simple question, but it's got fascinating details to it, and we never have time to really go into it in a classroom situation with children. So today I thought we'd spend a little more time in it, and that is this a boy or a girl? Now, typically, we tell a boy from a girl by their weight. So we have a weight chart, and we know that boys have this range. Boys are smaller than girls. It's called reverse sexual dimorphism, meaning there's a difference between the sexes. And reverse meaning that typically males are larger than females in this earth of ours. But in raptors, girls are bigger than boys. So that's why it's called reverse sexual dimorphism. And so so we know that what the weight range is for a boy and the weight range is for a girl. And so if they fit that weight range, then we know that we've either got a girl, if it's a heavy bird, or we've got a really large boy. But we really can't tell the difference. And this morning, I was and part of my volunteer work here is I took care of 3 hawks. I took care of them and cleaned their cages. I fed them. I did my normal thing, which is really wonderful to do, to work with 3 hawks. And one of our hawks is a Swainson hawk, and he's been with us for 20 years. And he was one of our standout education birds until 2 years ago when he laid an egg. Well, didn't we look foolish? You know, we still call him he, but we now know he's a girl. So it clearly there's got to be a better way to tell boy from girl. But no matter how much I poke around underneath his feathers, I'm not going to be able to determine if this is a boy or a girl, because their reproductive organs are all on the inside, and there's nothing on the outside that would give me a hint whether this is a boy or a girl. And further, those reproductive organs, they disappear. They shrink up into just nothing except during mating season, when they'll swell up and they'll become functional. So it's part of their adaptations for flight is that they don't have anything that they don't need. They don't have a bladder. That's why birds poop on your car all the time, is whenever they fly, they poop. And because anytime their body produces enough fluids, then it just comes out. So it's the same way with their reproductive organs. They don't swell up and become functional, except at mating season. So there are a few birds that we can tell by the color of the bird, which bird is a male or female. And I'm just going to go through a few of those because there's 4 of them that live around here, and several of them you can see right now. So the first one is the American Kestrel. And as you can see, the male who's on the right has this beautiful tint to his wings. And it's very easy to tell an American Kestrel. They're all around us. If you drive on any 2-lane highway, you'll pass a couple of them on your way through. So they're here all year long. They don't migrate here in Colorado. So we have the pleasure of their company. A second one is the Merlin. Now the Merlin is just a winter visitor, and as you can see, the male is a darker color, and the Merlin and the American Kestrel are 2 of the 4 falcons that live in Colorado. The peregrine falcon, the prairie falcon, the Merlin is a winter visitor, and the American Kestrel. The peregrine falcon migrates south during the winter. So we have at least 3 of them here year round, and you can see the Merlin is a bird hunter, just like the peregrine falcon, the prairie falcon, and you can see its color is quite different than the female, the male and the female. They're quite distinct. You can see them. The third bird is one that I see quite a bit around here, and that's the northern harrier. And the northern harrier is one of my favorite birds to look at. Because I can tell the difference between male and female so easily. You can see the male is this beautiful silver light color, and the female is a nice brown color. And they also have on the top of their rump they have a white band, and they're easily identifiable because they fly. They just drift over fields about 10 feet off the ground, and they just fly around looking for their prey. And you can see those quite a bit around. The fourth kind of bird that we know is the barn owl. The barn owl, you can see that the female is darker than the male. The male is a much lighter color. So that's those are 4 birds that we know that we can tell male from female. Now, if we can't, so can birds tell the difference between male and female when they run into each other? Obviously they can, because they find each other. Just because we can't find it, just because we don't have a way of really determining male from female from external observation, it's clear that birds can. Now, researchers looked at this for eons, and they conclude that the birds can tell the difference because they can see a female and they can see a male. And the way they would do this is because birds see in a bit broader visual spectrum. They see in the near ultraviolet spectrum, and so it's very likely that to another screech owl, this guy would have green feathers or purple feathers or some color that only another bird would see, and we can't see, because the near ultraviolet is a very different spectrum that would show a different color. If true, birds look very different to each other than we see them. So what birds look like might be very different. Now, do we care whether it's a boy or a girl? We don't breed birds here. We rehabilitate birds here, and we try to educate people about this amazing animal, the raptor, which is a species that if the raptors are doing well, it's a keystone species. So if you know the raptors are doing well, you know that things are going fairly well in the ecosystem. So we like to have a strong raptor presence in our community. But we don't breed raptors, so do we really care? Well, among our 18 education birds, some of them have gotten quite old. And eggs are very different. Now, to me, a bird laying an egg is much superior, and I say this as a man who has a couple of kids, is much superior than a woman becoming pregnant and carrying a baby for 9 months inside her body. A bird in a short period of time can produce an egg, lay that egg, and she's done with it. She sits on that egg and she nurtures it, and the egg hatches, and then the male and the female take care of it. So, but the process of developing that egg, all that calcium comes right out of her bones. So she needs to have a much better diet to produce that egg. And as birds get older, if that egg has a problem being delivered outside that body, then that bird could have a very bad time if there was a delivery problem. So we want to make sure that our education birds, if they're in the process of making an egg, they're getting a really good diet. And we might not want to handle them. We not want to take them to events. You can actually feel an egg inside a bird if you touch it, so you can see if they have an egg that's developing inside of them. So we would like to know that, particularly for our older birds. So we want to make sure we feed them right. We want to make sure we take care of them. So we've decided that we're going to go through during our annual tests, our annual health checkups with the birds. We're going to include a small portion of their blood for a DNA test. And so next year at this time, we'll be able to tell you out of our 18 education birds definitively. It doesn't matter whether they're laying eggs or not. We can tell you if this guy is a boy or if this guy is a girl. So we will have to come back to this subject next year, and we'll tell you how they're going. So we just wanted to spend a few minutes with you and go through that little story, which we don't get a chance to in schools. So thank you very much, and be sure to subscribe and hit the like button, and you'll be able to be notified of other videos that we make. Thank you very much. Have a great day.